into March like any second here. So we are in an acceleration. There's no time to think anymore. There's no time to react. It's just upon us. Every time you go to the grocery store, it's a fact. Things cost more every time. It's frightening. And the thing is that, you know, then they want to tax us some more, and then they, you know, rob from the public. You know, it goes on and on and on. And so you and I have had many conversations, and I think that we work hard to not upset ourselves further with what's going on. And I've been subscribing to the 80-20 rule, where we talk about solutions 80% of the time, and mental preparedness, as opposed to all the different things that are wrong with the system.
Right. Well, one of the things that I've noticed for myself is that by detaching from I call it the matrix, the materialistic side of the 3D nature of things, and being content with what I have, whatever that is, then what I have is sufficient. So one of the things that seems to create so much suffering for people is that they don't have enough. And, of course, that's an illusion, and that can be carried to such extremes that, you know, you end up with 300 families owning three-quarters of the world, you know, with trillions of dollars to throw away, and people starving and dying and being killed off intentionally for the most part. So living within our means and learning how to be with one another and be with ourselves is an important part of that process, yes?
Well, sure, and that would be the discipline of any kind of meditation or whatever. But if you look in Egypt, one of the things that I've always marveled at is the Egyptian people themselves. They are irrepressible, they're polite, they're generous, they wear their hearts on their sleeves, they're always smiling, they're rhythmic, and they've got nothing. They feed a family and buy shoes and school books on $2 a day, and we have everything, and we're looking for what's wrong and what the next thing is. And our thing isn't about getting something, it's about wanting something. And the minute we get it, the game's over, and then what's the next thing to want? Well, there can come a point where there's nothing left to want, and that game is just never ending, as is greed and power and, you know, the wealthy wanting more and more money. How much more power if they control the media and they control everything and they control, it goes on, and then they have more and more money and then they can buy more power. That's also not satisfying. They need more and more power and more wealth and more control. Well, the sickest people are running it, and, you know, the people who have the least are the healthiest. So we've got it. It's just so topsy-turvy and backwards, and it's a hall of mirrors, and we're just about to go through this vortex where, you know, it's all going to change. Well, I agree with the idea that as we pass through this 26,000-year cycle and a 5,000 and a 2,000, all these different cycles are converging at a 0 point, that the energetics are going to change. And so in the stage that we're in now, anything that's not balanced between masculine and feminine, that's supporting patriarchal ways of being and thinking, actually energetically cannot hold. But as long as the collective unconscious thinks, oh yeah, that's the way things are, then it gives energy because thought is creative. And so many psychic predictions were quite accurate until we hit 1999, and even Nostradamus started to get a little weaker there. But most psychics cannot perceive beyond 2012, nor remote viewers, because we're entering into a co-creative phase, and nothing is written in stone. Nothing is anything unless we co-create it, which is why we can't afford the luxury of a single negative thought. We've got to create the world. What would make us happy? What would make it work? But we also have to be careful that we're not using the secret, if you will, that says, oh, I want a red Ferrari. But the thing is, it's not about what we, little us, want in terms of entertaining ourselves. It's about what supports us to help the collective. And that's what we're provided with if it supports the greater good. It's not about little us.
Right.
And everything that's happened on the planet, education, religion, all of that has made it look like it's all about serving our ego. And many, many, many people don't understand that. And you can even get people who have ego about not having ego you know, and the whole need now to cut through spiritual materialism. So, you know, like we can turn anything into a taking game. And you're coming from your ego if you're taking and if you're needy. And you're coming from your soul if you're invested in helping everyone. And the bodhisattva concept is this, you know, we're not free unless everyone's free. It's not about, oh, I'm going to be free and I've got food and I'm going to shoot you. If you need food and it's mine, I'm going to shoot you. Well, that doesn't make any sense to someone who is truly a Gnostic at the cellular level, who remembers living in harmony. And it's so fascinating to me that the patriarchy has gone to such lengths to disband, lose, deny, demonize anything that makes sense, and has fed us violence and given us guns. The only purpose for a gun is to shoot an animal or a person. No one should shoot anybody, ever.
That's right.
You know, if you can chase after something and you need to eat and you can get it with a spear, all the power to you. And they, you know, do prayers and eat that way. You know, so the way the Indians lived was quite simple. But they had access to cosmic rays and things that transform DNA and evolution. And one of the things that I just realized in the last little while here as I'm renovating a suite is that PVC plastic is one of the things that cosmic radiation, cosmic energy that evolves our DNA cannot penetrate. So in the winter months, all of our houses are in these plastic bags, and we stay inside because it's cold, and we play our computer games or whatever, and we can't really evolve without exposing ourselves to what exists naturally with the sun in Mother Nature. And they say, oh, no, avoid the sun because it's going to give you cancer and all that stuff. But it's fascinating to me how thorough the system has disempowered us bit by bit and dumbed us down. It's absolutely incredible how it's happened. And so it's like, you know, lifting the veil in The Wizard of Oz and seeing what was running the whole thing. So the mythology is there, and many, many, many people know the difference between right and wrong in their gut. And things trigger them. And humanity is in good shape. It's the suppression that is keeping humanity from rising up. And having been to 52 countries, Egypt counts as one, going there 25 times, and the list goes on. The people of the world are kind, generous, loving. Everybody wants love and support. Everybody respects your children if they have children, and even if they don't. And so it's so incredible that such a few people could do so much damage.
Yes, I agree. And it seems that we, in order to be released from that, we would need to, you know, empower ourselves, but also somehow that influence or that negative force needs to be removed.
And it would be quite simple if the willingness was there.
Yeah.
And we need a new model for how to run things. And the monetary system has to fall. Wall Street is just, you know, self-serving people getting money from the people. Whoops, we lost it. Sorry. Oh, we're richer. Huh? You know, it's like it's not just about us empowering ourselves, because as long as we get huge utility bills, we have free energy. We shouldn't be paying anybody for that.
Right.
You know, we pay insurance, and then when it's time to collect, they go, oh no, you know, precondition, whatever. Oh no, well we don't, you know, your house, no, house insurance is only for the big stuff. Oh no, well everybody's got a big stuff now, so we can't pay. You know, and so interest is all phony money, and people paying, you know, themselves out of phony money. We end up paying for our houses 3 times, and the last is taxes. Income tax is unconstitutional. They pay themselves, and I don't want my hard-earned money to go into paying for a limousine for a guy, you know, who's a politician who's completely disconnected. Now, think about who ran society, who was the leader in the ancient matriarchal societies and in ancient Egypt. It was the most conscious, smartest, most fit, most conscious person was the leader, and they didn't get anything. It was completely immoral for them to get any profit for themselves by leading. And everyone was trained in leadership. because it was not expected for any one person to have the monopoly on that. And they got their robe and their lunch. Well, here, most politicians go in with a certain net worth, and they come out with, infinitesimally higher net worth.
Yes.
What's that about? That's not leadership. That's control and greed.
Yep.
There's a big difference.
Well, people have to wake up and see that. You mentioned the priest, the matriarchy. Did I see somewhere that there were 9 levels of initiation within the priesthood?
Well, priestess. You see, when they say priesthood, again, that's patriarchal, because way back, in the matriarchal cultures, it was about balance. The priestesses there were periods of time where mostly it was priestesses, but in the ancient Egyptian culture, yes, there were 9 levels of initiation, and it was all about discipline and proper diet and exercise and all that would allow greater capacity for the energetics of the cosmos to come through our bodies, and we could get electromagnetic-cuted if we were exposed to too much of this powerful energy, if we didn't know how to stand. And so that's what the bands were around the wrists and the ankles, to allow for more energy to come through. And then the bands around the upper arms were about being trained in sex magic, which was taking the feminine principle and the masculine principle and putting them together for a higher purpose, to build a charge. But when it came time to the 9th level of initiation, it didn't matter what a single initiate did or a group of initiates did, they couldn't raise their level. It's almost like plugging a plug into the power source. So it was the high priestess that would elevate the initiate. Now, they had to be able to cope with that, or else they would die. Literally, they would just, have too much energy moving through them. So there was this very sophisticated pattern of training to make sure that everybody survived the thing and that people didn't get initiated unless they were ready and that they could handle the energy. But after they got lifted, literally, through somebody who had more energy, one by one, into this 9th level, they instantly became telepathic. They could control the huge cougars, the temple cats, panthers with their third eye, and the transmutation of the atom, all the things that had to do with free energy, anti-gravity, teleportation, manifestation, bilocation, alchemy, all of that was all the same thing, because it meant that the atom could transmute. And we don't understand that. We've erased that. We've dumbed that down. However, we do have access to those technologies, and it seems once you get into one, then the others are within the same realm, and that's been suppressed. But it's not to say that there weren't commoners that weren't high-level initiates in the time, but there was a certain sect of people that dedicated their entire life to helping humanity run these energetic grids, and the purpose of being at the 9th level was to participate as human divining rods in the whole grid system around the Earth, the telluric currents, where you see sacred sites and pyramids and that sort of thing all over the globe. So there was something that was able to sustain and nourish humanity on a larger level in a positive sense. And all that's been, broken down, except it's so powerful that if you go to Stonehenge or Newgrange or the pyramids and Easter Island, the energy is still flowing through these stones.
I like the way that your video demonstrates the way that the rise and fall of civilizations ties into the various ages, and that we're in the least conscious age, the densest age right now, which is, I guess, the Iron.
Yep, the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga, as they say in the Vedic traditions of ancient East India. We are at the darkest of the dark, and the irony is the Darwinian delusion and the myth of progress. Oh, we're so smart, we're technologically advanced, we've been so advanced. No one could ever be smarter than us. When we're living in a bloodbath. It's absolutely we're just like completely harmed by electrostatic grids and all that, and we're violent and, disconnected and not spiritual, and it's the darkest point. And I think that from a golden age we had future vision and we could see what it was going to come to, and we tried to leave ourselves clues.
Yes. And a lot, and many of us, and such as yourself, are helping to
ourselves further with what's going on, and I've been
Right.
subscribing to the 80-20 rule where we talk about solutions 80% of the time, and mental preparedness as opposed to all the different things that are wrong with the system.
Right. Well, one of the things that I've noticed for myself is that by detaching from well, I call it the matrix, the materialistic side of the 3D nature of things.
Into March, like any second here, so we are in an acceleration. There's no time to think anymore. There's no time to react. It's just upon us. Every time you go to the grocery store, it's a fact. Things cost more every time. It's frightening. And the thing is that, you know, then they want to they want to tax us some more, and then they, you know, rob from the public. You know, it goes on and on and on. And so you and I have had many conversations, and I think that we work hard to not upset
off intentionally for the most part. So living within our means and learning how to be with one another and be with ourselves is an important part of that process, yes?
Well, sure, and that would be the discipline of any kind of meditation or whatever. But if you look in Egypt, one of the things that I've always marveled at is the Egyptian people themselves. They are irrepressible.
And being content with what I have, whatever that is, then what I have is sufficient. So one of the things that seems to create so much suffering for people is that they don't have enough. And, of course, that's an illusion, and that can be carried to such extremes that, you know, you end up with 300 families owning three-quarters of the world, you know, with trillions of dollars to throw away, and people starving and dying and being killed off.
They're polite. They're generous. They wear their hearts on their sleeves. They're always smiling. They're rhythmic. And they've got nothing. They feed a family and buy shoes and school books on $2 a day. And we have everything, and we're looking for what's wrong and what the next thing is. And our thing isn't about getting something. It's about wanting something. And the minute we get it, the game's over, and then what's the next thing to want? Well, there can come a point